Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. So they have just announced a new expansion for Hearthstone, and it is, as many of us expected, Karazhan themed. It is One Night in Karazhan, and the idea is Medivh invites you to party up in his Karazhan tower and place, and it's all cool and stuff. And this is, kind of from the World of Warcraft theme. In World of Warcraft, Karazhan was a place that was filled with mischievous magical entities, and it had a really cool experience. And a lot of the raiding experience from World of Warcraft is translated in the new boss encounters, which is really cool, at least as a World of Warcraft player. And maybe, Blizzard is doing this to kind of pull in a few of those World of Warcraft dudes. But it is a slightly different Karazhan. Medivh is a chill dude. It is before he went all corrupted and, messed up a lot of stuff, and before Karazhan became a messed up place. It was the place to party, and it's the One Night in Karazhan expansion where he invites you to have a good time with all the magical entities and stuff. And there's a little bit of thing going wrong with Medivh not being at this one party, and a few of the magical entities in Karazhan kind of messing things up a little bit, and that's who you encounter in the boss fights along with a few other things. So overall, it's a pretty cool, like, disco fun party themed expansion that really only Hearthstone could pull off out of the World of Warcraft genre. So interesting stuff. It's coming up in just 2 weeks. It's going to be launching on August 11th. And as we can see from the pricing guide, it will be 4 wings along with a prologue. The prologue you play as Medivh, so it's a little bit of a different adventure, but the adventure will feature 4 different sets. So we're going to play on August 11th, and then, 7 days after that, until 4 times, where you basically just get all the cards. It's going to be 45 cards total, and in these expansions, the cards they release are often much more polished in the adventure environment rather than like the 130 card plus sets or whatever. They're also coming up new Battlefield that is hopefully going to be fairly interactive. I've been itching for a really cool Battlefield that I haven't seen recently. Should be a lot of fun. In their launch, stream, they mentioned a few of the new cards, and I want to review those for you guys today. So, on one hand, you get my opinion on those specific cards, but on the other, we get to see kind of where they're going with this expansion. So this is the first card that they launched. It is Ivory Knight, a 6-mana 4/4 Paladin rare card, and the battle cry discovers a spell, very much like the Ethereal Conjure. However, you restore the health to your hero equal to its cost. So this is a very interesting mechanic. It combines many mechanics in the game, and it's pretty cool. So it's in my opinion not as good as Ethereal Conjure because the stats kind of suck. They're not really to one extreme. If it had a low attack and high health, I think it would be better because it'd be better in a control deck. If it had a high attack and low health, it'd be better in a tempo deck, and you can sometimes use those in control decks as well. I think the Ethereal Conjure stat distribution is better. Ethereal Conjure costs 1 less. And remember, when you discover a card, you have to discover cards of that class. So, in my opinion, mage spells are slightly, not always, but in general, slightly stronger than paladin spells. And also, the healing can be really good. Paladins don't really need that much more healing than what they have, but who knows, that can change up. This can be a big game changer. You never really know with heal cards because they are always so premium in Hearthstone. But you have to keep in mind, because the card that you select is going to heal you based on its mana cost, your opponent is going to know the mana cost of the card you selected. So the surprise factor is, again, not the same as Ethereal Conjure. Overall, I think it'll be a card that might be played in Control Paladin, but only in Control Paladin. I don't think it's going to make any other type of Paladin list. I think it's even too slow for mid-range Paladin, but that does make it a pretty good arena card. The slowest of the slow cards ever are generally pretty useful arena cards at the very least. But should be fun to see what people come up with, though I kind of doubt any control decks will pop up at any time in the future in Hearthstone. Then we had the Kindly Grandmother. It is a hunter card. It is a 2-mana 1/1 beast, and the Death Rattle summons a 3/2 big bad wolf, which I believe is also a beast. So basically, hunters get a new ridiculous Death Rattle-y card that you have to kill twice that is also a beast, and Oh god. I mean, hunters didn't really need it, but even if a class really needed it, if this was like a priest card, I would still be pretty unhappy because I don't know why they keep releasing cards that are super annoying, synergistic, and you have to kill multiple times. These are the most frustrating cards to ever deal with. And obviously, this is just an absolutely insane card as a result. It might be one of the best cards of the set just because I don't imagine they're going to release too many of these because we still have to keep in mind N'Zoth is a thing, so the more Death Rattle cards you release, the better that card becomes, and that card's already decent enough, so it's a pretty strange spot where it seems some classes might get some powerful Death Rattle cards and others won't. Well, it seems Hunter will, and you can kind of bet N'Zoth might sneak in some of these decks as they have quite a lot of Death Rattles now. Then we have Ethereal Pedlar. Is a 5-mana 5/6, so really premium stats just to boot. It's just very powerful stats. Almost the best you can get really for the 5-mana slot. And the 5-mana slot has generally been quite weak, so it does rise above most 5-drops. And the Battlecry reduces the cost of cards in your hand from other classes by 2. This is a very unique effect that is probably not going to come up very frequently, but if you play something like Burgle, if you play something like, you probably have Undercity Hucksters, you can get these cards from other classes, and because this is a Battlecry effect from the Ethereal Pedlar, it does persist throughout. So, you play this once, and you just get the discount on the cards whenever you need to play them. So, really cool effect. I don't think it'll change very much. Generally, the rogue decks that are successful are ones that do 20 damage from no board and draw their entire deck with spells and Garrison Auctioneers, and this doesn't really help that. So we've seen very powerful rogue cards come about, but none have really been class defining if they haven't gone along with that theme. So I doubt it will make much of an impact, but I will certainly have a lot of fun with it. And then we had Legendary Barnes. I think this is one of the coolest cards I've ever seen. Is a 4-mana 3/4, and the Battlecry summons a 1/1 copy of a random minion in your deck. Now, this shares very similar text to that of Herald Village, so I believe the 1/1 that you get from your deck can be silenced to its original stats. So potentially if you get like a 12/12 from your deck, you can cast like a 0-mana silence. You could get like a ridiculous turn 4 in some priest matches. And that's probably not going to happen, but it could. And it could just do a lot of other really cool things, and these are the cards that I love. Barnes has amazing potential for combo decks. There's a lot of giant minions that have game-winning effects that you just generally can't use because they cost too much. Barnes can bring them out, and he can bring them out in amazing styles. So you can have like basically a 4-mana Malagos if that's your only other minion in your deck, or coupled with a few others like Archmage Antonidas is a very powerful one when it comes to having a 4-mana version of it. So there's a lot of amazing combo potential with this card, and combo is one of those fairly degenerate deck types that I have not criticized too much in the past. I think combo has done a very good job to suppress aggro decks, much more so than control decks have in the past, and combo decks have generally have a very high skill cap and are very fun to play and very entertaining to watch in the tournament format. So I do praise our new combo overlord Barnes in the future of Hearthstone. Another legendary, we have the Curator, 7-mana 4/6 taunt, and the Battlecry draws a beast, dragon, and murloc from your deck. It's also a mech, which means if you're courageous enough to play something like a Gorilla Bot, you're probably going to get Curator from Gorilla Bot about half the time that you play it. But good luck with that. I wouldn't recommend it. But there's a lot of cool aspects to this card. If you do lower the power level of your deck to include the required cards for the Battlecry to actually work, it's a very, very powerful card. Whether it's actually worth the card draw, whether the control theme actually requires you to draw cards as a win condition, probably not by the way, and whether or not the loss in the overall deck quality warrants the card as a whole, I am quite skeptical on, but I think overall it is a really cool card, and I think we're going to have some amazing moments at the very least in Brawl and Arena to show just how cool this card can be in some circumstances. So this is one of those cards that I don't think it's particularly good, but it could be, but I'm very glad it exists. And then we had the Enchanted Raven. This is one of the rewards for the prologue, so everybody will have this card if they play Hearthstone. It is a 1-mana 2/2 Druid Beast. Now, there is a lot of hype about this card, and I can see it. I think it is a good card. But I don't think it is a deck-defining card. I don't think it is a class-defining card. I don't think it'll make as big of an impact as some people might predict. It's going to be just a solid card. It's going to be a very good arena card. And it's going to be a card you're going to include in a lot of your aggressive Druid decks. But I don't think it's going to be the end-all, be-all. I do not think it is as good as Zombie Chow. And the reason I say that is because the 3 health on the Zombie Chow is so monumental that the 2/2 just almost doesn't compare to it, especially in a zoo game these days where a lot of minions have 1 to 2 attack and a crapload of health. So, yeah, I think it's good, but I don't imagine we'll see too much of it. I think there's some chance you actually will see none of it, but probably we'll see a little bit because it is a 1-drop, it is an aggressive card. Those have some way of finding themselves in any given meta. And lastly, it is the Firelands Portal. Oh man. They did mention that there's going to be 5 portals total. These are like Medivh casting portals, and they go somewhere and they have some kind of effect. This is a mage common card, and that is very important to realize when considering the effect. It does 5 damage and summons a random 5-cost minion. So 5-cost minions have a pretty wild range. I think the average attack is close to 4, and the average health is about 4.5. So it's a pretty poor mana cost slot for stats, and that is pretty relevant to the card, I suppose. But, you know, the downsides are pretty bad. You can get like a 3/3 or a 3/2 5-drop, but the upsides are like Earth Elemental. Yeah, there's some pretty insane cards you can get out of this. And overall, I think the card is probably a bit too slow to make almost any deck in the constructed scene, but you know, the control mage deck might see it. It's a pretty flexible card. You can do damage to your opponent's face if you're missing a little bit. You can use it for removal, gain another minion. You know, kind of just a cool card. But my main concern is with Arena. You guys know Rogue and Mage right now are the dominant classes in Arena, and removal is premium, which is why those classes are dominant. So here we have a Mage card. It is a Mage common card, and it is going to be part of an expansion that is going to be an adventure. Adventure expansions have ridiculously high occurrence bonus when drafting. It's probably going to be at least ×2, and then another ×2 because it is a class card and it's a common card. So basically what I'm saying is you might see an average of 1 of these in every single Mage Arena deck, and you're going to see a few Mage Arena decks that are going to have like 5 of these. So this is going to be one of perhaps the most common card in Arena, period, that you will see moving forward. And I think that is a little bit insane. I think the card's power level is similar to Fire Elemental. It does more damage for slightly less stats, but is more flexible being a spell and having more burst potential at the end. You know, many Arena games are your opponent's at like 6-7 life, you're at like 6-7 life, you just need that finisher. So having a little bit of a higher reach on the finisher, I think, makes this slightly better than Fire Elemental, which puts it roughly around close to, let's say, the best commons in the entire game as far as Arena is concerned. So I think this is at possibly like some negligence on Blizzard's behalf, because they really didn't account for Arena balance when coming up with a card like this. Mage is already one of the best classes, and they're getting an insane card. So Mage is really going to be over the top just from this card alone, regardless of what else happens in the expansion. And, you know, that might be a good thing. It might be fun to play Mages, but you definitely will have to prepare to play around this card and a lot of Mages moving forward in Arena. So should be an interesting time. Let me know what you think. Let me know about all the excitement you have for the Karazhan, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.